Nausea and fainting spell solved. You're pregnant.
I'm sorry, but she's just not pregnant.
No, I'm not pregnant.
As technology advances, women are increasingly able to decide when and how to have children. Nearly all women of reproductive age have used birth control, and some now conceive through reproductive technologies. Jane the Virgin may seem like an amusing and outlandish premise, but it points to a salient and urgent idea: that medical advancements come with increased risks and unforeseen consequences. A 2008 survey of nearly half of all U.S. fertility clinics found that more than 1 in 5 had misdiagnosed, mislabeled, or mishandled reproductive materials. Claims arising under these mistakes are increasingly being gathered under one term: reproductive negligence. Reproductive negligence claims can be organized into 3 categories. In procreation-deprived cases, people are wrongfully deprived of the chance for wanted pregnancy or parenting. In procreation-confounded cases, people who used reproductive technology to select for specific genetic traits end up with a baby with different traits than what they selected for. In procreation-imposed cases, unwanted pregnancy or parenting is imposed. This last category, which this report explores in depth, presents an especially problematic burden for patients. Judges often deny plaintiffs damages for the cost of raising a child, even if they were not in an economic position to have one and did not choose to.
Lori would later find out she'd give birth to a girl with Down syndrome. She says the thought of raising a child with special needs at her age, the added financial burden, and her doctor's broken promise all took an emotional toll.
What are families supposed to do when they didn't choose this expense, and the legal system as it currently exists doesn't recognize reproductive negligence as a means to recover damages? That's the quandary Veronica Jackson found herself in when her doctors failed her. In April 1979, Veronica Jackson underwent surgery to remove a painful ovarian cyst. Her doctor promised to replace her IUD if he needed to remove it during surgery, but he forgot to do so. In July 1980, Jackson and her husband found out they were expecting a baby. The Jacksons sued, alleging medical malpractice and breach of contract, and sought damages for the pregnancy and cost of rearing a baby. The court allowed the Jacksons to seek recovery for damages for the pregnancy, but denied them the ability to recover for cost of rearing the baby. Raising children is an expensive business. In 2015, the average cost of raising a child was over $230,000. The amount the court thought Veronica deserved for her doctor's mistake? None. Parenthood comes with the type of risks and costs that one should be given the opportunity to consent to before entering. Veronica did not consent to her pregnancy. But tort doctrine doesn't yet recognize the violation of that consent. Instead, it has consistently fallen back on an assumption that women should be happy about motherhood, and so they should not receive damages for it. And behind that assumption are attributions about how we perceive and treat women in our legal system and in our society. Why do we assume that women should be happy to have a child she doesn't want? And who is really to blame here? The woman who had sex and became pregnant, or the doctor who made a mistake? In short, who is stick and who is ball? Accepting reproductive negligence as a legitimate doctrine would help flip the script for women like Veronica and give them a chance to seek remedy for mistakes made by their doctors. Reproductive negligence doctrine could solve 3 problems Veronica and many other women face in bringing causes of action for cases of imposed procreation. First, current tort law does not allow women to recover for infliction of emotional distress. Second, it does not allow women to recover for the cost of the child imposed on her. Third, not allowing these damages reinforces harmful attributions about women's expected place in society and raises the bar for them to bring a successful cause of action. So what do these problems look like in depth? The first problem is that current tort doctrine does not de facto allow for damages for emotional distress. For women like Veronica Jackson, the courts maintain that the birth of a healthy child is always a benefit to the parents, which as a matter of law outweighs concomitant financial child-rearing burdens. Long story short, women should be overjoyed about the prospect of motherhood. How could it possibly cause them emotional distress? Reframing this as a problem of reproductive negligence and placing the emphasis on how medical professionals have imposed unwanted pregnancy on women would force the court to take a hard look at the actual consequences of the doctor's mistakes. The second way the current doctrine failed Veronica Jackson was by failing to compensate her for the costs that arise from an imposed pregnancy. Quantifying how much autonomy someone loses as a result of having a child is a challenge. A child does not have a market value. However, tort law is no stranger to valuations of the human body. Entire federal bureaucracies use charts to calculate exactly how much a left arm is worth versus a right arm. The third problem those who are pursuing reproductive negligence confront is that they ram directly into ingrained societal expectations of motherhood when they're trying to bring their case to court. When Veronica Jackson brought her case to court, she was told that she could collect damages for her medical expenses. However, the court, quoting precedent, claimed, "Who indeed can strike a pecuniary balance between the triumphs, the failures, the ambitions, the disappointments, the joys, the sorrows, the pride, the shame, the redeeming hope that the child may bring to those who love him?" Veronica Jackson thought she could strike that balance. That's why she brought her case to court. But she was up against centuries of expectations that her only goal in life should be motherhood, and a media that reinforces those attributions over and over again. According to Dove Fox, the mind behind the idea of reproductive negligence, that expectation only increased after the devastation of World War II. Since then, motherhood hasn't just been seen as a joy, but a civic obligation, a duty. Any woman who does not want to be a mother isn't just abnormal, she's un-American. And what court wants to reward such a rejection of our values? As it stands, tort doctrine insists that there is no duty, no breach, and no meaningful damages to women and couples who become pregnant due to the mistakes of their caregivers. By not allowing women to recover damages beyond a malpractice claim, and by bolstering a societal expectation about their place in society, our legal system is failing to fulfill a central purpose of tort law: to protect people's lives and possessions, and to provide remedies when those protections are violated. Reproductive negligence would provide an outlet for women and families to recover when no other option may be available. It could help to neutralize the preconceived notions courts have about women and their bodies and provide remedies for those who may have